and this is the Outlet Forum with my esteemed co-host Chris Camello. What up, Chris?
Yes, sirs.
Another great week, another crazy game, the best game of the NBA Finals, Game 3. We'll get into everything that went on in the game tonight where the Indiana Pacers took a 2-1 lead over the OKC Thunder. We'll get into some KD trade rumors that are definitely starting to heat up. We are not talking about Giannis this week. I refuse to put him on the rundown, Chris. We'll also get into a little bit about Doris Burke and Richard Jefferson and that broadcast. Chris had some pretty strong feelings about it, so I'll give him the floor on that. And also, we will get into everything that's going on with the New York Knicks. Do they have a plan? Do they not have a plan? Do they get rejected? Do they find a coach? We'll get into everything that's going on with the New York Knicks. Tibbs actually took out a full page ad in the New York Times. I'll show you guys that what that looked like. But Chris, first we got to get into this game, man. I mean, finally, finally, we don't get a snoozer. Finally, we get a great game. Finally, we get a close game that has some clutch buckets in the end. And Indiana pulls it out 116 to 107. And they just played harder than the
Yeah.
OKC Thunder tonight. What did you make of the difference in the pace of the game from game 1 to game 3 now? And how was Indiana able to take a lead in the finals over the best team in the league for the last 9, 10 months?
Once again, Indiana had to prove themselves. It's not enough that they've had one stunning comeback win after another, that they beat the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, that they beat a very good New York Knicks team by taking the first 2 games on the road. No, you would think after they played game 2 that they were manhandled in the first 2 games of the series, that the series was actually 0-2 and not 1-1. So they took their licks in the media about the hands of Jay Will and Stephen A. Smith and everybody else. I mean, look, I get it. Indiana didn't play well in game 2, right? And now we kind of thought, oh, yeah, this is the beginning of the end of the Pacers. Let's start etching their tombstone and writing their obituary and hiring a pastor, Chaz. That's what people started to want.
Of course.
Pacers, as they have done all year, as they have done all postseason, we are going to prove you mother effers wrong, especially you, SAS. And you know what? Because I like doing it so much, even you, Tracy Morgan, you going to prove me wrong too. No, but no, but
That
honestly,
Tracy
tonight
Morgan is the worst, like the best and the worst Tracy Morgan I've ever heard. But
well,
go on.
I wanted to get a reaction out of you. Anyway, what did we hear a lot of the last couple of days? The depth of OKC, how great Shea was, the NBA record he set, most points scored by a player in his first 2 NBA Finals games in the history of his career. Shout out SGA, MVP, Western Conference Finals MVP, all of that. Indiana, though, tonight showed their depth. Indiana tonight showed what their star player can do. And Indiana tonight showed, for the second time in the 3 games of this series, Chaz, showed how to finish. And
Yep.
they did it again. It wasn't just about Halliburton wearing the Superman cape. It was the collective. Halliburton actually had a good, but not a great performance. 22 points. What was it? 11 assists and 9 rebounds, or I think 9 assists, 11 rebounds. I know he came short of
No,
a triple
11 assists.
11 assists, and yeah, he was great.
He was
9
he was
rebounds.
here's the thing. I don't think he was great. He was good. He was
He
just
was
better
really
than he
good.
was in the first 2 games, in my
Exactly.
opinion.
Yeah.
Benedict Mathurin is who
Was the
saved their
guy.
ass with
That's what I
27
was going to get to.
points, 4 rebounds. I mean, only 1
Yeah.
assist, but plus 16 overall. Obi Toppin with big buckets. I mean,
And a big block, too.
their bench units is the one who really kept them in it. And TJ McConnell, that run that he put on from about 9 minutes left in the second quarter to about 4 minutes, his shift, he completely changed the trajectory of the game because
He
OKC
did.
had full control of that game in terms of the pace,
Right.
stopping Indiana, and TJ
And they
McConnell comes in
withstood. Yeah.
and he just makes shot after shot after shot and just plays harder than everybody else on the floor.
He out Alex Caruso'd Alex Caruso. I mean,
Uh,
Caruso, my point being is a guard that came up off the bench and had a big night on both ends of the floor. I thought McConnell did in game 3 what Caruso did in game 2 is what I'm saying. But you're right. Mathurin was the guy tonight. Obi Toppin was the guy. These are the guys that have been the difference makers. When you look at the majority of their wins, most of those nights, those 3 guys are coming up off the bench and playing hard. And of course, we always hear role players played better at home. These guys took on that challenge. Benedict Mathurin, by far and away, this was his best game of the postseason. And for as much love as Halliburton's going to get tonight, or Pascal Siakam, or even McConnell, they don't win this game without Benedict Mathurin. And the one thing this
no.
guy always has going for him, even when he's struggling, Chaz, is his confidence. And he believes I could go out there and play with any of these guys and make the big shots and make the big plays. And he showed that tonight. And really, the fourth quarter, we thought it was going to be closing time, because I agree. It felt like OKC withstood every punch that Indiana gave him and was giving it right back to him. Dort, J-Dub, SGA, Chet Holmgren early on. But what happened? They started coming apart in that fourth quarter. Indiana kicked it up a notch. Just like they did in the second quarter, McConnell and Mathurin set the tone in the fourth. They turned that game around quickly. The 5-point deficit became a 4-point lead, and they never looked back from there. They went on a critical 8-2 run and just put out the Oklahoma City Thunder's lights. And that's why, for the second time in these playoffs, the Thunder are now down 2-1.
The thing for me was that you can see the inexperience in the Thunder. This is why people didn't believe in the Rockets. This is why people didn't believe in any teams that didn't have a gross amount of playoff
Minnesota.
experience. Minnesota, for that matter, as well. OKC got a lot of doubt, especially early on, but we knew that they were a different type of squad because of their defense.
Yeah.
You saw Chet Holmgren tonight. Miles Turner just got the best of him on too many occasions tonight. Lou Dort came in ready. He didn't miss a 3 all game,
Yeah.
but then when they needed it in the fourth quarter, he missed it the first 3 of the night and went 4 for 5 on the night as well. Caruso showed his experience,
And
but you had guys like Wiggins or even SGA who just wasn't, after a closeout, standing there instead of rotating to another guy, or Chet Holmgren and Caruso not boxing out Obi Toppin on that tip dunk when they were up 5 to really seal the game. There's just little plays here and there. The guy that I thought that was the most ready, even more than SGA, was Jalen Williams, J-Dub, with over 26 points and
yeah.
hit every clutch shot to keep OKC within striking distance. Shea didn't play a bad game. I mean, obviously, it was his worst game of the series so far, with only having, I think it was 24 points, and was a -3 with 8 rebounds on the game. So you just have these games, you have these lulls. It was human nature for them to not come out and play with the ferocity that they absolutely needed. You know that they're going to come out like a wagon in game 4, knowing that they cannot go down 3-1 going back to OKC, having to face a potential game 6 closeout game with this crowd, with Indiana for the first time, being able to clinch a NBA championship on their home floor, let alone in general. Yeah, they're gonna have to win game 4 if they want any chance of winning this series. OKC has to figure it out. And I look, I know that they
No.
won game 1, or was up all of game 1 until the end, won game 2, played okay in this game, good enough to win, but didn't pull it out at the end. I- Isaiah Joe, Cason Wallace, Chad Holmgren, those guys need to play better. And I'm not saying offensively, they just have to be in better spots. Defensively, Kendrick Williams, I mean, he was
Yeah.
awful as well. I mean, everybody except for Lou Dort and J-Dub tonight for the OKC Thunder. And obviously
Mhm.
Shea was, he wasn't
Well,
great, but he was good. I mean,
yeah.
they just weren't
Well, Chet
great
was
tonight.
no, I agree. The balance, once again, this game, if you want to talk about depth and balance, Indiana won that battle tonight. Halliburton essentially what SGA did. So that's a wash right there. So if your 2 stars are a wash, then what becomes the difference of the game? It comes with the second, third options in the starting lineup, and then whoever steps up off the bench. Aaron Wiggins had 18 in game 2. You pointed that out. 0 points in 10 minutes tonight. Alex Caruso, 20 points. I understand Caruso's not your bona fide scorer. I get that. Only 8 points, though, tonight, Chaz. 8. Two guys who had 38 points for the Thunder in game 2 combined for 8 points in game 3. That's just not going to get it done right there. And Chet, you mentioned it. Chet, the difference was Chet got off to a great start in this game in the first half and then basically disappeared in the SGA, got off to a slow, had big third quarters, both of them. And then in the end, just wasn't enough. And then Dort was mixing in some threes and, of course, playing his hard-nosed defense. But it just felt like when Indiana needed to turn up in that fourth quarter, I was really expecting to see OKC put their foots on the necks of the Pacers, and they never did. It was the other way around. They kept the Pacers in the game. Pacers not only stayed in it with them, they took over that shit. And that's why they were able to pull this one out and convincingly, and not just offensively, Chaz, their defense as well. You got to give the Pacers defense some credit.
Oh yeah, the Pacers defense has been night and day from the regular season to the postseason. The way that they locked up Milwaukee, what they did to Cleveland, even without Darius Garland at times, what they did to the New York Knicks, even though the New York Knicks, didn't play great at times. Very impressed with Indiana and the way that they've taken it to OKC. The fact that they have a 2-1 lead without home court or going into this series is very impressive. And this is actually going to vault somebody like Rick Carlisle into a next tier or stratosphere as far as a head coach. Look, and this is coming from a guy who's not a Rick Carlisle fan, so I got to give him his flowers because he's coaching his ass off by putting his team in position more than Mark Dagnall is right now, even though the OKC Thunder are more talented and have better depth and should, by all accounts, be up in this series probably 3-0 if you really think about it. If the OKC Thunder play the way that they really need to play, they could have swept the Pacers, but
they've shit the bed now in two. Sorry for the profanity. Twice in the fourth quarter now. In game 1, I think it was really devastating because I think they were up 15 in the fourth quarter. I want to say that was their biggest lead. I think they were up 17 for the game, 19. But in the fourth quarter. But 19. In the fourth, though, Chaz, I could have sworn
it was in the fourth quarter. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
In the fourth quarter.
But in the third quarter, they were up 19 for the game. Right. Yeah. That was more of a devastating blow. Tonight, it was a 5-point game. It's basic, but they had the momentum, they had the control, and from Indiana in their minds. But once again, unable to put them away. And that's been, when you really look at Indiana's success throughout these playoffs, what do they all have in common? Great fourth quarters, great end of game execution. And tonight was no different. So when I hear this disrespect, not from you or me, but just in general, it's like, damn, like they must really think that Indiana is a bona fide fluke. Like everything that they did through the Eastern Conference playoffs was really against shorthanded teams, inexperienced teams, but yet here they are in the finals against an inexperienced team, and they are actually outplaying a team that at one point has won like 80 games this season, over 80 games. Like that is astounding to me. I don't know when people are going to wake up and just start giving this team some credit, whether they win or lose this series or not.
No, man, they're getting the credit for me because every single time I bet against them, I lose. And every time I bet for them, I lose because that's how inconsistent they are at times. And look, I'll just say it. Tyrese Halliburton is not a superstar. He's a star. We throw around this word great all the time. He played very, very good. He wasn't great tonight. He was just better than he was in the last 2 games. But here's something. I want to switch gears really quick, Quiz, because this is something that you were kind of talking about before we started going live. I mean, is this one of the worst broadcasting teams that we've heard in the final? I mean, hearing Mike Breen's voice is great, but like, I miss Mark Jackson. I miss,
Mama, there goes that man.
Just Mark, Jeff Van Gundy. I mean, but just Doris Burke. I'm used to hearing her during the regular season, but during the biggest games at the end of the season, Richard Jefferson. I actually was okay with him getting the nod, but it's not sounding great. That's just my personal opinion, but I know you feel even stronger about it. I give you the floor, man. What do you think about this broadcasting team on ABC? Thank God we're going to NBC. Thank God.
You know what? And you just led me to answering a question with the question. What year did you start watching basketball that you
Um,
remember watching basketball?
uh, like 90. I was born in 90, so probably like 94, 95.
Okay. Those broadcasting teams for the finals were usually Marv Albert and the czar Mike Fratello. Hello, everybody. Here is Bryant. Yes. And here is Reggie Miller. Yes.
I mean,
John Starks. Yes. Patrick Ewing. Yes.
do we
And then
need
Mike Fratello. Ewing has got it going right now against the Dream, and he is doing
like,
a fantastic. My point being is when you look at the
yes.
finals, all of the great broadcast teams, Bob Costas, Marv Albert, you can go back to even Mike Green with Hubie Brown. You can go back with Bob Costas and Doug Collins. That was an electric team right there, underrated in 2000 and 2001. Marv Albert with Bill Walton and Steve the Snapper Jones. And over the last 20 years, for the better part of 20 years, who we had? Mike Breen, Mark Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy. Why ESPN decided to cut ties or break that team apart is beyond me. Because here's the thing. Are there going to be haters out there, Chaz? Oh, Mark Jackson sucks. Oh, Jeff Van Gundy sucks. Oh, this and that. No one ever says anything bad about Mike Breen, who's a Hall of Famer. However, these guys bring what to the table? Anybody? Entertainment value. We want to tune in whether we like him or hate him. It's the same reason why if you don't like Charles Barkley, you're still not going to miss an episode of Inside the NBA. It's the entertainment value. It's the funny anecdotes. It's the stories. It's the ribbing of one another. That's what's great. No disrespect to Doris. Actually, quite the opposite. I got a ton of respect for Doris. She's done a tremendous job as a sideline reporter. She's got astute basketball knowledge. She's been doing this for a long time. And I would say based on the work that she's put in, she deserved that seat. But from an entertainment value aspect, what you and I, nice ticker right there, bro. What you and I actually as basketball fans and others as basketball fans want to hear, we also want to be entertained through the broadcast, which is why I told you offline, the TNT crew with Reggie. I know Laker fans hate Reggie Miller, but Kevin Harlan with Stan Van Gundy and him, or even through the years, Chris Webber, or go back to Steve Kerr, wherever, they always brought something to the table where they're just captivating. Reggie Miller, are you kidding me? And then Kevin Harlan, the three-pointer is good. Oh, Chaz, right between
Well,
the eyes.
you and these impressions. I mean, I'll
Bro,
go
what
ahead.
do
I'll
you
let you
think I've
finish.
been doing? What do you think I've been doing all my life is impersonating people,
I get
Case
it.
in point, Tracy Morgan.
I get
Anyway,
it. I get it.
what I mean to say though is this. There's been a lot of talk about Doris not being right, or even Richard Jefferson not being right, but Doris in particular. And a lot of people have said, oh, well, it's built-in misogyny and everything like that. No, it's really not. It's because there are good female play-by-play broadcasters out there and color commentators. However, there is just not a lot of spark there. There's not spunk. You're not going to race home, turn on the TV to listen to Doris Burke and her breakdowns. You're just not. And that's why
You're
I'm
not.
saying
I,
why you broke up, because when you replace Doris and even JJ Redick and replace Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, it wasn't an upgrade to me at all. It was very much a downgrade. And that's where I think it's just like ESPN, stop. If it's working, keep doing it. Keep doing it unless the guy quits or gets a head coaching job or something. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at on it. I
that's where you're
respect
at
these
on it.
guys. They're doing the best they can, but they make these games boring. I'm sorry, they just do, and they don't bring any of the spunk or the entertainment that Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, along with Breen, brought to the table. Your thoughts, sir?
Um, I mean, this is the kind of nostalgia that I'm talking about right here. Like
Ahmad Rashad, yeah,
this was when the broadcast was the shit. I mean,
right.
anniversary of the flu game tonight. Just so you guys know, 28 years ago today. Um, I'm not going to give this much more fodder. I let you kind of go on about it. I don't have as strong of an opinion. I went first. They'll fix this, and we're going to get a lot more uh, games with a better team, I think, moving forward. So, Doris Burke, I got love for you. I can stick it out another few games, but I don't think we'll be seeing you for the long term moving forward. But I do enjoy hearing you during the regular season, maybe not so much during the finals. But let's get back to basketball really quick because there's a coach that got fired and he put out a full page ad. It looked great in the New York Post or I think it was the New York Times.
It was the New York
Uh,
Times. It was a full ad on the New York Times, but also Tom Thibodeau, recently fired Knicks head coach, also posted it on his personal social media. And I thought it was just classy. Very, very classy. For a guy that unfairly, in my opinion, got fired. That was classy. And to be honest, he almost looked like a conductor at a New York symphony in that picture, doesn't he, Chaz? It was very
he
fitting,
does.
the photo.
He does. He does.
Yeah.
It actually doesn't look too bad. But word on the street is that the Knicks from Shamshrania just keep getting denied. They got denied by Houston for Ime Udoka, Minnesota for Chris Finch. Now we're hearing Atlanta for Quinn Snyder. Next, we're going to hear JJ Redick from the Lakers. I mean, these guys are going after everybody, and everybody keeps saying that they didn't have a plan or this and that. Chris, I want to go. I want to go first on this because while I'm not a Knicks fan,
Yours first, then. Yeah.
I do believe that the Knicks had a plan, and this is why I think that this is their plan. Oh, you can't read this; kind of too far for that. But pretty much what I said in this tweet was,
Hold on.
I believe
Hold
the
on.
Knicks.
I can see it.
Yeah. Whatever. I think the Knicks have a plan. Their plan was to fire Tibbs and go after coaches that they thought were better.
Yeah.
Clearly, they
Okay.
think Finch and Udoka and Snyder are all better, but they're going after coaches who are under contract. They probably, I mean, even Fabulous. Rapper Fabulous is on Instagram giving Knicks advice saying, hey, go after guys like Mike Malone and uh, Mark Jackson, guys that do
Yeah.
not have a job currently in the NBA as far as a head coaching gig goes. So I don't believe that the Knicks didn't have a plan, but I don't think it's a great plan that they had, and they're going out sad right now. And to be honest, it reminds me of the negative fodder that the Lakers had in that offseason of 2019 before they got Anthony Davis. It was like,
Mhm.
damn, what the hell are you guys doing? You guys got denied by Monty Williams and you couldn't close Tyronn Lue, and now you're hiring Frank Vogel. And lo and behold, the Lakers won the championship that year, oddly
Mhm.
enough. So I don't think the Knicks are going to win the championship next year unless they get somebody like Giannis. I'm not doing a Giannis topic. I'm just saying, but the Knicks just look bad in all this, even though I do think they had a plan. What do you make of it? Do you think they had a plan, or did James Dolan just come in and fire Tibbs, not knowing at all who he was going to get? Because I don't think that this is something that Leon Rose and World Wide West would do, knowing that they were going to look like fools with their pants on the ground after they fired Tibbs and getting denied for guys that are already under contract.
Sure, I agree with that. And I said this, anytime you fire a coach, you always want to measure how much of this was the connection with the ownership and everything like that. Because owners, that's a big move. Anytime you make a big personnel move like trading a star player or firing a head coach, I got to imagine ownership has some say in it. And the thing is, when you look at Tibbs's history, it's not a positive history. There were articles on articles about why the Chicago Bulls wanted to run him out of town, even though he brought them to their only conference finals appearance in a non-Michael Jordan-led team, back in 2011. Minnesota wanted him out of there because similar things, probably issues with ownership because the way Tibbs runs things may be effective, but it becomes grating after a while. His voice,
Yeah.
his leadership, his rigid style, even though it brings a sense of identity and a structure to a team, it can be grating on the players, on the front office, and eventually to ownership. So, of course, James Dolan had a say. Did he have the full say? I don't know, because it wouldn't shock me if Leon Rose, ex-agent of Karl Anthony Towns, who there were reports that Towns was, not buying into Tibbs' defensive identity, shocker, because he didn't do that when they were together in Minnesota, that
True.
maybe that may have factored into that as well, that Leon Rose was maybe looking after the best interests of his ex-client and maybe the rest of the team as well. So I think that's what factors into that. But yeah, I don't understand the strategy of going after head coaches who are being denied interviews right now. And you're getting guys who are not only active under contract, but are coming off good seasons, with the exception of maybe Quinn Snyder and Billy Donovan, who, in my opinion, Billy is the coach of the Chicago Bulls, Quinn Snyder, head coach of the Atlanta Hawks, which in my opinion are not upgrades over Tibbs. Michael Malone is on par, maybe even slightly above Tibbs, because with that same kind of rigid style, they won a championship in Denver. And maybe he could also has the son of a head coach, by the way, or an assistant coach in Brendan Malone, RIP. Also, I think has the personality and the toughness to deal with the job and the media and the fan base and all that entails. So I think Mark Jackson's a good idea. Jay Wright, I know his name's been, I like Jay, to be quite honest.
He took his name out of the hat already. He took his name out of the hat.
And that's a guy who's like, if you're going to be a first-time head coach, Jay's a two-time NBA champion with Villanova, and I get it, the connection with Hart and Brunson and Bridges. It would be like a little Villanova reunion. But as a first-time head coach at with the Knicks gig, just like with the Lakers gig, you're taking a hell of a chance there. So I think Malone is the best option personally, or you go with one of these young guys, a Chris Quinn, a Johnny Bryant, one of those guys, or try to promote from within. But I think Malone, with this group assembled, Chaz, makes the most sense. I don't know why. It may be a short-term thing, but with this group that may be ready to contend, I would go Michael Malone easily. You?
I think that man, I just really think that they need to interview more than just a few guys, and you got to go after guys that are understand going after guys that are under contract, because the best guys are the guys that actually have jobs already. I don't think Mike Brown from Sacramento. I don't think that Mike Malone. I don't think that Mark Jackson.
I like Taylor Jenkins. Yeah, Taylor
Jenkins as well. I don't think that those are the best guys that are available. I think the guys that sometimes the guys you can get are the guys that aren't available. And the Lakers almost got Hurley last year from UConn. That guy wasn't available. JJ Redick was, but there are guys that you can go after that aren't available, that are still available, so to speak. So
but they would have to resign from the position, though, I think. You know what I'm saying? Like there's got to be some sort of opt out or something like that. I don't know.
So here's my deal. This is why you have World Wide West. You have to work the back channels to figure out who's going to take the job before you even request the permission. Clearly, I don't think Jason Kidd went to the Mavericks to say, hey, I want to go talk to him. They asked for permission and the Mavs said no. But I think they asked Jason Kidd, like, hey, we're not going to stop you. Do you want to talk to these guys? And he probably said no at that point. But he's not going to proactively go to the Mavericks and do that. So ultimately, the Knicks, I think, are going to figure it out. They just look like they have egg on their face for this last week. And there's so many other teams that are thankful that they're doing that right now, because they have a lot on their plate trying to figure out their team, who they're going to trade for. Like Phoenix right now, even though they've been out of the news for a while. We'll get into that next, but they're about to trade Kevin Durant, and they're about to look like they have the egg on their face. So
you want to get into it? We can get into that. Yeah,
it's just a matter of time. So let's move on.
What I was saying about Taylor Jenkins, I would also give him an interview, because I do like Taylor Jenkins and I think he can coach. But is he ready for the bright lights in New York? This ain't Memphis, baby. You know what I mean? So that's the one issue I have with Taylor Jenkins, but I would still put him on that short list with Mark Jackson and with Michael Malone and maybe one other name.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's get into it, man. This is that KD topic that we've been talking about. Word on the street is that he's met with his business partner, Rich Kleiman. They're talking about proposals because Kevin Durant has 1 year left on his contract. He's going to have some kind of leverage on where he wants to go, because nobody's going to trade for Kevin Durant knowing that they're only getting him for 1 year and then he may go up somewhere else. So teams like the Rockets, the Spurs, the Heat, the Knicks are just among a few of the teams that have been talked about as far as proposed teams for KD to join. Obviously, the Minnesota Timberwolves in there as well. It just doesn't show on the ticker also. Chris, what team of these, or maybe not on this list, do you think that KD will not only land, to, but will be the best fit with?
Well, I see the Rockets on there and the Spurs. To me, that's the one. Those are the two teams that have the assets, the picks, the swaps, that they could go out and make a move because of the foundation that they have in place already with Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox. And in Houston's case, you have Amin Thompson, Jabari Smith, Alperen Şengün. And then, of course, you have the contracts as well. And the Spurs also have that. So if they want to go out and make a move for a big-time player, they could do it without gutting their roster and having Kevin Durant basically come back to a wasteland where it's basically him and a bunch of scrubs. For me, I think putting him in a situation like the Spurs, where he doesn't necessarily have to be the leader or even the best player, with Wembanyama there. I understand Victor went through the blood clot issue. I'm glad to see that he's recovering and going through some sort of a religious transition as well. I read about recently, but in any case, he's doing better. I think that would really put the Spurs in a serious position right away. KD has always had a connection to Pop. Even though Pop's not going to be coaching, he's going to be president of basketball operations. You know that, Mitch Johnson is a Pop disciple. So I think, to me, he makes the most sense there. You know what I'm saying? Rockets do too. Rockets could use some help at that wing position. We saw how inconsistent Jalen Green was in these last playoffs, and I think putting KD next to an Amin Thompson and an Alperen Şengün would be a right mix. But with an actual bona fide superstar in a system led by a Greg Popovich disciple and Mitch Johnson, I think KD to the Spurs really does make the most sense if you want that sort of immediate success, in my opinion. But hey, I could see him in New York. I could see him in Miami. I just don't know if he's going to have the same level of success with those groups after they actually make a deal to get him.
There's only one place that I think that makes the most sense, and that's the Minnesota Timberwolves, not the Knicks. That makes sense for Giannis. Again, I'm not doing the Giannis topic, but KD needs to go to the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's where he would be the best fit. And I do believe that they have the assets. They could part with somebody like Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Dante DiVincenzo and a couple picks, or one pick, or, since KD only has 1 year left on his deal. Like, there are ways to be able to get this done. And that the team that I think would be the best fit would be Minnesota because of the 1-2 punch with Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards needs a sidekick that's not Julius Randle, even though Julius Randle played out of his mind this postseason. I just think that ultimately it's going to come down to who is going to ride with Ant. Ant can't be just the only guy doing it. He needs another guy that's going to step up to take the ball out of his hands, because clearly he doesn't do well when he gets double teamed coming across from half court. And Mike Conley is just not the ball handler that you really need because of size and things of that nature. Now, does that mean you have to go out and get KD? No, but I just think that Kevin Durant would make the biggest difference for those reasons. I do think that Kevin Durant would work well with Houston, but I think Houston would have to give up too much. The Heat, I don't think that would be a good match. Just for Pat Riley and asset reasons, you're gonna have to give up somebody like Bam, and they're not doing that. And the Knicks could work technically. I just don't think that he's going back east like that. I just don't see it that way. But I could be wrong. I've been wrong plenty of times. But I think the best fit is with a team like Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota certainly would be good. But I just, they would have to give up Jaden McDaniels on that. And to me, you'd want to try to find a way to keep McDaniels along with Edwards and then basically put KD in the same spot that I guess Julius Randle was in last year. And then, of course, there's the Naz Reid situation, who I believe is going to opt out of that $15 million a year contract. And here's the other thing, too. Is Phoenix willing to take back a lot of this salary that has multiple years on it? That's the other thing that they have to kind of be careful of. Because it's one thing if it's young talent, right, that has multiple years left on. For example, if it's a Spurs deal, the Devin Vassell's, the Keldon Johnsons, maybe Stephen Castle, or even Harrison Barnes, you could live with those guys, right? Because those guys are not making a ton. They're pretty solid role players. It doesn't make sense for you to take on the Dylan Brookses of the world, the Rudy Goberts. That's where you kind of get yourself financially handcuffed in some of these situations. So because KD, by the way, is making over $54 million this upcoming season in
He sure
2025,
is.
2026. So that's the other aspect. You got to make the salaries work. So I think Minnesota, yeah, could make sense, but at what price? If you're going to part ways with McDaniels and potentially a Naz Reid in a sign and trade type deal, man, that's a lot right there, Chaz, that you're giving up, because I don't think you're
Yeah.
going to want Rudy Gobert. I don't see that for Phoenix.
Mm,
So
no, I think ultimately that's where they can figure it out. Now there may be a dark horse team that comes about and swoops them up, kind of like Phoenix did. I didn't see Phoenix coming with KD the first time getting out of Brooklyn, but it made sense on paper, but ultimately it just didn't make sense in the grand scheme of things. I don't know what is going to happen with Devin Booker either. Like,
no, he's staying. He's staying for
I know,
now.
I know he's staying, but I'm
Yeah.
just talking about his career. Like, I don't think there's guys I think that can be the best player on championship teams. I don't think Devin Booker can be one. Like,
No, I don't
unless
think so. He's a running
so
mate.
so who is he going to either pair with, or who are they going to pair with him to
That's the
Phoenix
thing.
for him to be competitive, or is he just never going to be one of those guys that gets to the finals again after making it and losing to Giannis 4 straight games in 2021? Like,
That's another guy they may need to trade into a situation that it feels like we need some scoring. Like Devin, put it this way: Devin Booker in Houston instead of a guy like Jalen Green. Now you're talking. Now you're talking.
oh, in
If you're,
Houston
yeah,
with
with Şengün, with Amin Thompson, and some of those other young players that they have there as well. If you put Booker in that kind of situation, coached by the great Ime Udoka, now you're talking. I think Durant is very similar to that, where, everyone's going to say, I'm not taking anything away from those championships. He was outstanding in 17 and 18, not only what he did scoring wise, but defending LeBron consistently in those series, when it was Golden State versus Cleveland. But he didn't have to go through the pressure of leading. He was able to lead with his game. That's when he's at his best. That's why I think, Chaz, San Antonio really makes the most sense. Wembanyama is clearly the face, right? KD could kind of go in there and do his thing without necessarily being bothered about, are you the leader of this team? He could be a voice, but he doesn't have to really galvanize and be like John Wayne in the Dirty Dozen, get behind me kind of a thing. It doesn't need to be to that extreme, the way they were expecting him to do that in Brooklyn. And even, I would even say Phoenix to a lesser degree. I think it would be a better transition and closer to what it was in Golden State, that kind of structure, in my opinion.
I can't say I disagree.
Yeah.
I agree with everything that you make. Some
I
really
only
good
have
points
one
there.
thing to say with RC Buford. Try to make that deal without parting ways with Stephen Castle,
You
and for
can't.
Pop as well.
You can't. You can't.
Try.
No,
I
of
said.
course, try. Yeah, absolutely. Like kind of try like to hold on to Austin Reeves while getting Luka Doncic. Well done. Well played, Rob Pelinka. You had all the leverage because he didn't want to tell anybody else. So he said, hey, do it without Luka. Or do it
Touche.
without Reeves and do it without a couple extra picks. And voila, Luka in the Laker uniform. So
Very
uh
good, Chaz. That's a good one.
I
That's
had
a good comp.
I I had something else that I wanted to discuss, but I'm actually going to table that for next week because I want to see what happens over the course of the next week or two as the finals wind down and we move into this season where we're going to get trade after trade. I think because teams don't have cap space, there's not a whole lot of free agents, but there's a whole lot of movement that needs to happen for certain teams. So we'll get into a lot of the trade discussion over the course of the next couple weeks, specifically next week when we have a special guest on the show, friend of the show by the name of Jovan Buha. Had to drop that for you guys that are still listening. Can't wait to have him on next week. I believe it may be after a game, or
Yeah.
is there no game that night?
No. There's no game on Wednesday. It'll be the
Okay, good.
19th. We're gonna have a game Friday, 2 days off. So enjoy Father's Day weekend, Chaz. Happy early Father's Day to you.
Thanks,
And
Dog.
then absolutely. And then we'll have a game Monday. and then I believe the next game will be
Game
Thursday.
7 will be Thursday.
No,
Gotcha.
no. Game
Thursday.
6 would be Thursday, and then Game
Thursday.
7 would be next Sunday. Yeah. Game 7s are
Yeah.
always on Sunday. Well, actually, no, I take that back. 2010 finals. That was a Thursday.
That was a
Night.
Thursday.
By the way, it was a Thursday. No, you just made me think of something.
Wasn't the parade on a Friday the next day?
Good question. Probably. No, I don't think so. I think it was that next Monday. No,
Chris, I swear to God, I went to that. I was at that parade, and I remember it being during the week. So
it was but it wasn't Friday, bro. It wasn't Friday because it was because that would have been a weekend. I don't think they did it then either. I was at work watching that parade. I think it was that Monday, that next Monday after they won the championship, like the week of the draft kind of thing. Anyway, I wanted to point out one more thing.
I want to give you the floor, Chris, because there's some.
No, that's not what. Yes, I know what you're trying to do, but I wanted to point out, you talked about the anniversary of the flu game for Jordan, right? Back in 97. I was surprised you didn't point out 16 years ago today, Derek Fisher, game
Point
4.
four?
No, game 4 of the 09 finals.
Orlando.
Orlando against Jameer Nelson with the hand straight up, not even bothering to play Derek Fisher close. Nails a right wing 3 to send the game into OT, and then hits another big 3 on an assist from Kobe Bryant to seal the deal in overtime. And the Lakers went up 3-1, and then they won Sunday night in Game 5. So D-Fish, Chaez, one of the great clutch performers in the history, not just in Laker history, but maybe even NBA history. This dude, bigger the game. Here it is. In Orlando against the Magic. Bam. Take that. Charlie Murphy. Why don't you purify yourself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka? Okay, but yeah, no, I wanted to point that out. That's one of my favorite moments. I remember watching that with my mom, God rest her soul, my brother Johnny. That was a fun night. Yeah, that was a great game. Yes, we had 4 deaths, dude, in the last 3 days this week. So I'm not going to break down each one, but 2 were musical icons. Sly Stone died at 82. He was, some say that James Brown founded funk music. This guy perfected it. So shout out to Sly Stone. Everyday People, Dance to the Music, I Want to Take You Higher, Stand. So many great hits, man. He was fantastic. Went through a lot in his life. Died at the age of 82. That was one music icon. And I want to get your reaction to that, Chaez, but let me point out the other one as well. Brian Wilson, one of the co-founders of the Beach Boys, of the Wilson Brothers, the surf music of the 60s and stuff. And people say, Chris, that was way before your time. Yes, getting picked up, though, from school, from my dad in elementary school, he would usually be blasting a Beach Boys song. Beach Boys, Beatles, or Sinatra, or Howard Stern. Those were basically the options. So I remember I Get Around, Good Vibrations, God Only Knows, Surfing Safari, so many great hits. These guys were not only brilliant performers and had hit songs, they did a lot of the songwriting too, Chaez. And they were the iconic leaders of their bands, timeless hits. I just wanted to get your thoughts on both of them to start off with. Two more.
I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. When I was hopping in my dad's car, it was like Fred Hammond and a bunch of Marvin Sapp and gospel music. So, but I am heavily cultured, and I do know a little bit of the Beach Boys. So, R.I.P. to Brian Wilson. He was 82. My dad loves Sly Stone, so that might be one of his favorite artists of all time. So, I definitely rode in the car to some Sly Stone. And yeah, man, shout out to Ananda Lewis.
Yeah,
she
was 52.
She was 52, and
she was, by the way, to those that don't know, Chaez, she was an MTV VJ, like one of the founding female hosts, I think, that they used to introduce the music videos, like kind of like one of those roles.
Yeah.
Because I remember her. I don't remember exactly. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just wanted to.
There was a video of her kind of mentioning, hey, what do you guys like? What do you think people should remember you by? And I just want to play this real quick.
People say about you, people remember about you. Maybe that I loved hard and lived loud and didn't back away from problems and loved this life and was okay with letting it go too. It's a temporary situation. So do your best. That's all we're all doing is our best.
Amen to that.
Amen to that,
Yeah.
brother. R.I.P. Ananda Lewis. All just trying to do our
Yeah.
best.
And no, absolutely. And she was so young too. Obviously, Sly and Brian Wilson, they went through a lot, and to be able to be the iconic music figures that they were and still make it to 82, these guys should have been, could have been dead much earlier at 52, like Ananda Lewis. And she was battling stage 4 breast cancer. And my
Crazy.
heart goes out to that, because that's something that hits me. That's something that hits me personally, Chaz. As you know, I lost my mother 10 years ago, or 9 years ago now. I'm sorry. We just had the 9-year unfortunate anniversary of her death. So that's something that definitely hits close to home. So thank you. So, just shout out to her and her family, and her being another icon on the MTV circuit. That MTV was not necessarily started with our generation, but it started carrying out a lot more in the 90s. And obviously now it's whatever, but she was one of those icons. And then shout out Harris Yulin. I believe he was 87, just passed away. Now, people may say, who was that? If you've ever seen Scarface, if you've ever seen Training Day, if you've ever seen Ghostbusters 2, if you've ever seen Multiplicity, if you've ever seen a guest spot on The Entourage, he was one of those character actors that had a very low-key, calming, yet command presence about him. And Chaz, I pointed out, he was one of the 3 wise men that Denzel sits next to in the scene in Training Day. He's only in that one scene, but he tells a story that shows how crooked he is, that, the system basically let him down after he went through all this trouble to catch a collar. And he was like, I'm going to see this guy on the street and I'm going to do him. And he just says it so like calmly and stuff, and just command presence next to Denzel. That's not easy to do. So very talented actor, Harris Yulin was. And of course, Al Pacino killed him in Scarface when he says, "So long, Mel. Maybe you can get yourself one of those first-class tickets to the resurrection."
Wipe yourself off. You're bleeding. What movie is that, Chris?
Wipe yourself off. You're bleeding. I don't know. Which one is it? Oh, damn.
I remember.
That's a good. And I just saw that too.
And then he kills Gun Tao, and then he throws the handkerchief at him. And he says, "Dry yourself, wipe yourself off. You dead." No, you're bleeding. Well, earlier in the movie, it was you're bleeding, and then he killed him, and then
yeah.
So, all right, as you guys can tell, me and Chris get into movies after the show, and references. But R.I.P. to those that we've lost. Just had to say some good words, but appreciate you guys tapping in with the outlet forum. We got another great show for you guys next week with a special guest, Jovan Buha. We will be getting out our trade machine, talking all things trade, all things free agency, possibly all things NBA draft, all things NBA finals, and even obviously we're getting into some great Laker news that might be coming up. Lakers might have a whole new squad by the 4th of July, Chris, like real shit. So we'll get into all of that. Thank you guys for tapping in. You guys know where to follow us, at Chaez Pearson, at Chris Camello, _, Camello on Twitter and Instagram. Chris, anything you want to plug, big dog?
No, just keep following us at the Outlet Forum on X, on YouTube, on Instagram. Keep dropping comments. By the way, I want to point out one comment on Instagram that we had tonight from our guy Can't Beat Odell. He said he said a lot of good things tonight, but he said that's the best Marv Albert impersonation, bro. So Chaz, I felt vindicated after that. You were trying to bring me down for a second. I'm messing with you. But Odell appreciated the Marv Albert impersonation. I've been retired now for the last 5-6 years.
You know what you sound like? You sound like
with the facial,
Chris. You know what?
Well, that's what he said.
I want to show everybody before we sign out.
Oh shit! What is
the guy that you sound like on? Can you do that voice one more time?
What, Marv
Just
Albert?
whatever that last voice that you did. I forgot which one. I think it was Marv Albert.
It was Marv Albert, yeah. Bryant putting the moves on Christie. Rebound O'Neal coming up short. Ori for the win. Oh, come on. Professor John Frank from The Simpsons. That's more That's more John Frank. My Marv Albert does not sound like John Frank. I will give you John Frank. That's not it, bro. Come on.
Can I get one more before we sign out? What does John Fink sound like again?
Yeah. Yeah. What is it? What is it? Can I play with it? No, you can't play with it. You can watch as I am enjoying and play with it. Oh, whoa. The colors, children.
You guys see what I deal with on a daily basis. This is my co-host. This is
weekly, actually. If it was daily,
no. This is what I deal with daily. Love you guys. Peace out. See you next week. Next time. Yovan Buha. Get your questions ready. See y'all later. Peace.